can you talk a little bit about when you first step onto the set wearing the gray suit, the red bow tie? Do you get a little bit of chills? Do you get a little bit choked up for that first time?
I didn't really, to be honest with you, but one of the crew guys pulled me aside and went like, I almost lost my,
Yeah.
and said like, I don't think you understand, like, you know, this crew here is freaking out that you're, and he said to me, actually, I met you on the location scout a month ago.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting and stuff. He said, but man, when you just came out here in your suit, oh my God. And it was incredible. I remember that every day. That was a really great compliment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then last night you talked a little about how difficult it was just to get Big Holiday made. But the film's a perfect balance between like nostalgia, but also sort of ushering in a new crowd to see.
Couldn't be happier to hear you say that.
And but was that sort of the plan? And was it a tough sell with it being that way?
I don't know why it took so long, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think just like timing is everything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the right time, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, Netflix said yes at the right time and came in right at the right minute and it got made. So
that's awesome. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, shooting the opening sequence, which I absolutely loved, you know, how much of that setup is real, and then in terms of like how many takes does it take to get it done, where you're in the mini car on the, you know?
Well, trying to do something influenced by Rube Goldberg is a little more difficult now than it was in my first movie. It wasn't as common then.
Right.
Although, I mean, that's something very well known even back in the day.
Yeah.
But at this point, we've seen a lot more of that
Yeah.
over the last number of years. OK Go
Their
videos,
video.
I mean, all of that stuff
Yeah.
where it's real.
Yeah.
In a movie, I mean, even in Big Adventure,
Yeah.
it's all cut together, and so it doesn't have to be a real machine. It doesn't have to work.
Yeah.
And since we've seen so much of that brilliant Rube Goldberg inspired stuff where there's no cuts and you can tell somebody really figured every beat of that out.
Yeah.
I couldn't compete with that. I knew I couldn't compete with that. So
Yeah.
we wrote something that's really out there and more cartoony, and you don't see every single thing trip and how it happens. And so I think we just tried to find a balance of how to do something like that without.
Yeah. Just use the magic of movies too,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Now, can you talk about your relationship with Paul Russ and writing it? And can you also talk about sort of Phil Hartman, you know, writing Pee-wee's Big Adventure? I sort of talked to Paul about this as well, but, you know, do you guys keep sort of him in spirit when you're sort of writing Big Holiday?
You know, Phil was such a close friend of mine, and we wrote a lot of stuff together. And this is just a new thing that is really separate. So I think, you know, I certainly think of Phil very often, but I think it was a very different process working with Paul Rust. And the first movie was written with 3 people. This was just 2 people, so it's more kind of, you have more to do in a certain way. And it just, I think Paul Rust and I were in completely our own zone on this. And, and it was really fun. He's really a fun, hilarious guy, really sweet and extremely knowledgeable about film.
Yeah. Can you talk with Joe Manganiello, if you had to be involved in a dancing competition with him, whether it be break dancing or, you know, his Magic Mike style, who would win in a dancing competition between the two of you?
I think I've been dancing way longer than Joe. Sorry, Joe. Good dancer, but no competition.
That's great. Well, we love the movie, and we look forward to watching it again and again, because it's going to be just like Big Adventure, where I think everybody's going to love it and memorize the lines. And I think it's just going to be another classic.
God, you could not say more better stuff to me. I mean, thank you.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thanks
so much. Yep, awesome.